All right, so today we're going to dive into some investing stuff today.
Okay.
We're looking at the Nasdaq correction that happened recently.
Yeah.
Which is when the index drops by 10% or more.
Right.
And I think some people, when they hear investing, they think, oh, that's not for me. But we're going to talk about why this actually is relevant, even if you're not actively trading stocks or anything like that.
Absolutely. I think even if you are just starting out, kind of getting a grasp of these larger market movements can be really insightful to just kind of understand the economy in general.
For sure, for sure. So we've got this article from the Motley Fool, and it's called Nasdaq Correction. 2 top stocks to buy and hold forever.
Interesting.
So they're saying even when there's a downturn, you can still find some opportunities to buy these forever stocks.
Oh, okay.
Like companies you would just buy and hold for the long term. Basically. And we've got you here today, expert speaker, to help us break this down and figure out if this is all a good idea.
Yeah. So, the Nasdaq Composite, as you mentioned, it's very heavily weighted towards technology companies.
Right.
So when it corrects, it can feel like this huge, oh my gosh, the entire tech world is
It's just crashing.
Is crashing, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's important to remember that these corrections are a pretty normal part of market cycles.
Okay.
It doesn't necessarily mean, a crash is imminent.
So it's just the market, taking a breather, kind of.
Exactly.
Regrouping.
Yeah, just kind of taking a pause. And, for long-term investors,
right,
these dips can actually be a really good opportunity to buy into some great companies at a bit of a discount.
Oh, so when your favorite store has a sale.
Exactly.
You get in there. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, so let's get into some specifics.
Let's do it.
The first forever stock they talk about in this article is StarBucks.
Okay.
They've had kind of a rough go of it lately, though.
Really?
Their stock is down about 15% from its peak.
Wow.
So at first glance, maybe not so forever.
Yeah, it doesn't sound very forever.
Right. But the article argues that there's a turnaround happening because of their new CEO, Brian Niccol.
That's the argument they're making. And he is implementing some interesting things, like simplifying the menu, which, could really streamline operations and maybe improve profit margins.
Well, that's funny you mention that because they're also testing out this customers only seating policy.
Really?
So no more hanging out in Starbucks if you're not a customer.
Huh.
Is that even a good idea?
I mean, it's definitely a bold move.
Yeah.
On the one hand, it could create a more premium atmosphere for the people that are actually staying and, spending money.
Right.
But it also could totally alienate some people who, just want a quick coffee and a place to sit.
Yeah, just to chill.
Yeah. So I think it's all about attracting the right customer, and it kind of remains to be seen if that's going to work or not.
Yeah.
If you look at their latest earnings report, it's kind of a mixed bag. Customer traffic did decline.
Okay.
But the rate of decline is actually slowing down compared to the previous quarter.
So there's some hope, maybe?
A little bit of hope, yeah.
But I mean, their revenue in North America is up.
Okay.
So that doesn't really make sense.
It does seem a little counterintuitive.
Right.
But I think that speaks to the importance of really digging into these reports.
Okay.
It suggests that they're making more revenue per customer.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's due to higher prices.
Oh.
Or people just buying more per visit.
Okay.
So, maybe Nicole's strategy is starting to pay off in that sense.
Interesting. Okay, so maybe there's more to Starbucks than meets the eye.
Potentially.
But long term, do you think they could really be a forever stock?
Well, they've definitely got some things going for them. Brand loyalty is huge.
Yeah.
People love Starbucks.
Yeah.
They also have ambitious plans for global expansion, especially in markets where, coffee culture is really booming.
Makes sense.
And they're always experimenting with new products, new technologies like their mobile ordering system.
Right.
Which has been wildly successful.
Yeah. I use that all the time. It's so convenient. Exactly.
But I mean, is that enough to overcome all the challenges they're facing? Because there's a lot of competition in the coffee market.
Oh, absolutely.
You've got these independent coffee shops everywhere.
Everywhere.
Plus, you've got the big chains like Dunkin' and McDonald's that are really upping their coffee game.
Yeah, competition's definitely something to consider. And also, consumer preferences are changing. People are becoming more health conscious.
Right.
And, those sugary frappuccinos might not be as appealing as they once were.
Yeah. Sure.
So Starbucks is going to have to adapt and innovate to stay relevant.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so Starbucks is a little bit of a question mark.
Yeah.
Could it be a turnaround story?
It could be.
But a lot to think about.
Right.
Okay, what about this other company? They talk about MercadoLibre.
Okay.
They're like this huge e-commerce and online payments company mostly in Latin America.
So MercadoLibre, this is a company that has seen just like explosive growth in the last few years.
Wow.
They're essentially the Amazon of Latin America.
And their stock has kind of reflected that. Wow. But even they weren't totally immune to the recent Nasdaq correction.
Oh, wow.
It took a hit of about 16%.
Yeah, their stock was going way up after their last earnings report came out.
It was.
But then the market dip kind of took them down with it.
Yeah, it really just goes to show that even the most promising companies can be affected by these larger market trends.
That's true. So how do we make sense of that great performance and then the dip?
Yeah.
Is the market just being irrational?
I think it's more nuanced than that. While MercadoLibre was doing incredibly well internally, the overall market sentiment, especially towards tech stocks, kind of shifted.
Okay.
And I think investors just got a little spooked.
Okay.
And that fear kind of rippled through the market and impacted even companies with really solid fundamentals like MercadoLibre.
So just a temporary setback.
Yeah, hopefully.
Not something that's going to affect them long term.
We'll see.
But are there any concerns about MercadoLibre in the long term?
Of course, no investment is without risk. And one thing that analysts are watching closely is their profitability.
Okay.
They've been prioritizing growth over profits, which is a pretty common strategy for these young, rapidly expanding companies. But at some point, they will have to demonstrate that they can turn that growth into sustainable profits.
Right. So that's the big question.
That's the big question.
So is MercadoLibre a true forever stock, or are they just going to, disappear?
Well, let's consider a few things. E-commerce adoption in a lot of their key markets is still relatively low.
Okay.
So that suggests there's a lot of room to grow.
Yeah, makes sense.
But also expanding into these new areas like logistics and fintech, which could really solidify their position in the market.
Yeah, so they're building like a whole ecosystem. That's just like a store.
Yeah.
Okay, but can they keep this momentum going? What should investors be watching for in the coming months?
I think just keep an eye on how they manage that balance between growth and profitability. Can they keep expanding their user base, but also improve their margins?
Okay.
That's going to be a big indicator of their long-term sustainability.
All right, so we've got SBUX, which is like a potential turnaround, but with a lot of questions.
Right.
And then MercadoLibre, this huge growth company, but they need to figure out the profitability thing.
Exactly.
It's a lot to process.
It is. And, we're just kind of scratching the surface here.
Right.
This article is a good starting point. But it's really important to do your own research.
Yeah, for sure.
Before making any investment decision.
Absolutely. Don't just take our word for it, or even the Motley Fool's word for it.
Exactly.
Do some digging, understand the business model, their financials, everything.
All of it.
Think about what your goals are as an investor.
Absolutely. And your risk tolerance, too.
Right. What are you trying to do? How much risk are you willing to take on?
Exactly.
Okay, so we talked about the Nasdaq correction and these two potential forever stocks, but why should people care about this even if they're not like an investor?
That's a great question. Understanding these market trends and company performances can make you a more informed consumer and citizen.
Right, and also like a smarter investor if you do decide to kind of get into the market.
Exactly.
But we just looked at this one article on two companies.
Right.
And investing is so huge and it's always changing.
It is.
So what do you think are some other areas that people should be looking at that have this potential for long-term growth and innovation?
Yeah, that's where it gets really interesting. So if you zoom out and look at the big picture, there are some mega trends that are shaping the future that I think are just incredibly exciting.
Okay.
Like, for example, renewable energy. As the world kind of shifts towards these cleaner sources of energy, companies at the forefront of that change, the ones making solar panels and wind turbines are looking at a very bright future.
It makes sense. It's not just about saving the planet, which is, of course, super important. It's also about energy independence and new jobs and a whole new economy.
Yeah, exactly. And another area that I'm just fascinated by is the intersection of technology and healthcare.
Okay.
Telemedicine, AI-driven diagnostics, personalized medicine. It's kind of mind-blowing to think about how these innovations could revolutionize healthcare.
Yeah, we're talking about accessing specialists from anywhere.
Right.
Catching diseases earlier.
Exactly.
Treatments that are tailored to your DNA.
Yeah, it sounds like sci-fi, but it's becoming reality.
It really does. So where should someone even start if they're interested in this?
I would say companies that are developing cutting-edge medical devices, ones that are pioneering new drug therapies, companies that are leveraging AI and big data.
Okay.
These are all good places to start. This is a field that is just evolving so rapidly, so staying updated is key.
So you've got to find those companies that are not just solving today's problems,
Right.
but they're anticipating tomorrow's challenges.
Exactly.
Which kind of brings us back to this idea of forever stocks.
Yeah.
You want to find companies that you really believe in for the long term.
Long term.
Not just for like a quick buck.
Absolutely. It's about partnering with these companies, sharing in their journey as they grow and evolve.
I like that.
And just like any good partnership, there are going to be ups and downs.
Of course.
The market might throw some curveballs.
Right.
But if you really believe in the company's fundamentals, you're more likely to weather those storms.
That's a great way to look at it. It's like a long-term relationship.
Exactly.
But even before you get into a relationship, you got to do your research.
Always.
So where do you even start with that research?
I always recommend starting with the company itself. Dive into their annual reports, dissect their financials, understand their business model, their competitive landscape, their growth strategy. Like, really get a sense of who they are and where they're headed.
So go beyond just looking at the stock price.
Yeah, the stock price just reflects the market's mood at a given time.
Okay.
It doesn't necessarily tell you the whole story of a company's true value.
So those annual reports might seem boring, but they're actually full of information.
They are.
What else should we be looking for?
Pay really close attention to the management team who's leading the company.
Okay.
What's their track record? Do they have a vision for the future?
That leadership thing, it's incredible how much of a difference a CEO can make.
It's huge.
Just look at Starbucks. Their new CEO is shaking things up.
Yeah.
And MercadoLibre's leadership has been doing really well in a complex market.
Absolutely. Strong leadership is often a really key indicator of a company's potential for success in the long term.
Okay.
But we also need to consider the broader context, what's happening in the industry. Are there any big technological shifts or regulatory changes that could impact the company?
So e-commerce is always changing new technology, new competitors, new ways to shop.
It's a whirlwind.
Yeah, how do you keep up?
You look for adaptability. Can the company evolve with the changing landscape? Do they have a moat?
A moat like a castle.
Like a castle, exactly.
Okay.
A metaphorical moat, of course.
Got it.
It's a barrier to entry that makes it really hard for competitors to steal their customers or copy their success.
Okay.
So think about things like brand loyalty, proprietary technology, a huge network of users.
Okay, so we're looking for a strong moat, capable leaders, good track record, bright future.
Yeah.
But what about this whole buy and hold thing?
Right.
Does that mean you literally just buy it and never touch it again?
Not quite. It's about long-term commitment, but it doesn't mean you just completely ignore your portfolio.
Okay.
You should still be monitoring your investments, keeping up with company news and earnings reports, and, adjusting your strategy if needed.
So it's more like set it and check in every now and then.
Exactly.
Not just set it and forget it.
Yeah, more like tending a garden. You plant the seeds, you nurture them, you water them, but you also prune when necessary and make sure they're getting enough sunlight.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
So we planted some seeds today with Starbucks and MercadoLibre.
We did.
Talked about their potential, their challenges. But ultimately, you, the listener, have to do your own gardening.
Exactly.
You decide what forever stocks you want to plant in your portfolio.
And remember, even the most experienced gardeners, they run into some bumps in the road.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
There are droughts, there are pests, unexpected storms.
Yeah.
But with patience, diligence, a little bit of knowledge, your garden can thrive.
Absolutely. Speaking of knowledge, we covered a lot today.
We did.
Nasdaq corrections, Starbucks, MercadoLibre, forever stocks.
Lots of stuff.
But I want to leave our listeners with one final thought-provoking question.
Okay.
The article talked about these two specific companies.
Right.
But this whole concept of a forever stock isn't limited to these two companies.
Of course not.
Or even just these two industries.
Right.
There are so many sectors out there that have the potential for long-term growth and innovation.
Absolutely.
So what are some other areas that come to mind for you?
What's really fascinating is how some of the biggest challenges facing humanity are also creating these incredible opportunities for innovation and investment.
Yeah.
Like climate change, for example.
Yeah.
The need to transition to a more sustainable future is driving these massive investments in renewable energy, clean technologies, sustainable agriculture.
It's like that saying, necessity is the mother of invention.
Exactly.
We're seeing it happen right now with this push for a greener future.
Absolutely.
So for someone who is really passionate about sustainability and they want to kind of align their investments with their values, where should they start looking?
There are so many exciting companies out there to explore. Look at companies that are developing like advanced solar panels more efficient wind turbines, innovative battery storage solutions. There's also this growing movement towards sustainable agriculture, with companies finding new ways to produce food with less environmental impact.
It's pretty amazing to think that we can potentially invest in a healthier planet and also earn a return.
Oh, win-win-win.
It really is.
Yeah.
Okay, but let's not forget about the other mega trend we talked about.
Right.
Technology and healthcare.
Yeah.
Seems like there's so much potential there.
Absolutely. That's a space that's just ripe for disruption and innovation.
Yeah.
We're already seeing these incredible advancements in telemedicine.
Right.
Artificial intelligence and diagnostics, personalized medicine.
It's crazy to think about how technology is changing healthcare. Like, imagine being able to talk to a specialist from your own house, or AI helping to catch diseases sooner and more accurately.
Yeah.
And treatments that are made just for your genes.
It's incredible.
It feels like a total healthcare revolution.
It really does. And for investors, this presents this incredible opportunity to be a part of that.
Yeah.
Look for companies that are really pushing the boundaries in medical devices, developing those groundbreaking drug therapies,
Right.
or using data and AI to improve healthcare outcomes.
So if you had to sum it all up, what would you say is the key to finding these forever stocks of the future?
I think it's about finding those companies that aren't just solving today's problems, but are also anticipating and shaping the future.
Okay.
They're the innovators, the disruptors, the ones that are constantly pushing the limits of what's possible. They have a clear vision, strong leadership, and a deep understanding of what's happening in their industry.
And for our listeners, even if you're not ready to start investing yet, remember this idea of being a forever learner can apply to any part of your life.
Absolutely.
Things are changing so fast, and the only way to keep up is to keep learning.
Yeah.
Never stop asking questions, never stop exploring, and never stop looking for new knowledge and new ways of looking at things.
That's the beauty of continuous learning. It keeps us engaged, informed, and adaptable in a world that's constantly changing.
Couldn't have said it better myself, and that is the deep dive.
That's it.
We hope you enjoyed this look at the world of investing and that it made you curious to keep learning.
I hope so.
Knowledge is power, and the more you learn, the better you'll be able to handle the world around us.
Absolutely.
Until next time, happy diving. See ya. One that jumps out is renewable energy as the world shifts towards these clear sources companies at the forefront of that change. Like the solar panel manufacturers, the wind turbine producers.
Yeah.
They're looking at a pretty bright future.
Right. It's not just about saving the planet, though. That's a big part of it.
Right.
But also energy independence, new jobs, a whole new economic landscape.
Exactly. And another area that I'm personally really fascinated by is that intersection of technology and healthcare.
Okay.
So things like telemedicine, AI-driven diagnostics, personalized medicine. It's crazy to think about how those innovations could change healthcare as we know it.
Yeah, like being able to access specialists from anywhere, catching diseases, earlier treatments that are tailored to your DNA. It's like sci-fi, but it's becoming real.
Yeah, it's really incredible.
It is. So for someone who's interested in this, where do they even begin?
I would say look at companies that are developing those cutting-edge medical devices, the ones that are pioneering new drug therapies, the companies that are leveraging AI and big data.
Those are all really good starting points.
Yeah.
This field is changing so quickly, so staying updated is crucial.
So you've got to find those companies that aren't just solving the problems of today,
Right.
but they're also anticipating tomorrow's challenges.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that brings us back to that core idea of forever stocks, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not about a quick profit.
Right.
It's about finding those companies that you believe in for the long haul.
Yeah.
It's about partnering with them and kind of sharing in their journey as they grow and change. And just like with any good partnership,
Yeah.
there are going to be some ups and downs.
Of course.
The market, it might throw you a curveball or two,
Yeah, for sure.
but if you believe in the company's fundamentals,
Yeah.
then you're more likely to weather those storms.
That's a great way to put it. It's like a long-term relationship.
It really is.
But even before you get into a relationship, you do your research.
Always do your research.
So where do you even start with that research?
I always recommend starting with the company itself. Dive deep into their annual reports. Really dissect their financials.
Okay.
Understand their business model. How do they make money? What's their competitive landscape? What's their strategy for growth? Like, really get a feel for who they are and where they're going.
So it's about looking beyond just the stock price.
Yeah, the stock price is really just a reflection of how the market is feeling at a given moment.
Okay.
It doesn't always tell you the full story of what a company is truly worth.
So those annual reports, they might seem kind of boring,
They can be.
but they're full of valuable information.
They are gold mines.
What else should we be looking for?
You should definitely pay attention to the management team.
Okay.
Who's leading this company? What's their track record? Do they have a clear vision for the future?
That leadership thing, it's amazing how much of a difference the CEO can make.
Oh, it's huge.
You know, we were talking about Starbucks. Their new CEO is making some big changes.
Yeah.
And MercadoLibre's leaders have been doing really well in a really complex market.
Yeah, having a strong leadership team is often a really key indicator of whether a company is going to succeed in the long term.
Okay.
But we also need to look at the bigger picture, like what's happening in their industry. Are there any major technological shifts or changes in regulations that could affect the company?
Like e-commerce is constantly changing.
It is. It's constantly changing.
New technologies, new competitors, new ways of shopping. It's a lot to keep track of.
It's a whirlwind.
It is. So how do you keep up with all of that?
You look for adaptability. Can the company change and evolve with the landscape? Do they have what we call a moat?
A moat.
Moat, yeah, like a castle moat.
Okay.
But a metaphorical moat, of course. Like a barrier to entry that makes it hard for competitors to come in and steal their customers or copy what they're doing.
Right.
So think about things like brand loyalty, proprietary technology, or a huge network of users.
Okay, so strong moat, capable leaders, good track record, and a bright future.
That's what we're looking for.
Okay, but what about this whole buy and hold aspect of forever stocks?
Right.
Does that mean you literally just buy it and never touch it again?
Not exactly. It's more about making a long-term commitment.
Okay.
But it doesn't mean you just completely ignore your investments.
Okay.
You should still be checking in on them, keeping up with company news and earnings reports, and, changing your strategy if you need to.
So it's more like you set it and you check in on it every now and then.
Yeah.
Not just set it and forget it.
Yeah, it's more like tending a garden.
Yeah.
You plant the seeds, you nurture them, you water them, but you also prune when necessary, and you make sure they're getting enough sunlight.
I love that analogy.
It's a good one.
It is. So today we kind of planted some seeds with Starbucks and MercadoLibre.
You did.
We talked about their potential and their challenges and their place in the market.
Right.
But ultimately, it's up to you, the listener, to do your own gardening.
Exactly.
You decide what forever stocks you believe in and want to nurture in your portfolio.
And remember, even the most experienced gardeners, they hit those bumps in the road.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You get droughts, pests, unexpected storms.
It happens.
But with patience, diligence, and a little bit of knowledge, your garden can thrive.
Speaking of knowledge, we've covered a lot today.
We have.
We talked about the Nasdaq correction. We dug into Starbucks and MercadoLibre and explored this whole concept of forever stocks.
A lot of ground covered.
But I want to leave our listeners with one final thought-provoking question.
Okay, shoot.
This article focused on two specific companies.
Right, but this idea of forever stocks, it doesn't have to be just these two companies or even these two industries. There are so many sectors out there that have the potential for really long-term growth and innovation.
Yeah, totally. So what are some other areas that you think people should be looking at?
Well, it's interesting because some of the biggest problems that we're facing as a society are also creating these incredible opportunities for innovation and for investment.
Okay.
So take climate change, for example. The need to move to a more sustainable future that's driving these huge investments in renewable energy, clean technologies, sustainable agriculture.
It's like that saying, necessity is the mother of invention, right?
Exactly. We're seeing it happen right in front of us.
So if someone's really passionate about sustainability and they want to put their money where their mouth is, where do they even start?
There are so many cool companies to look into, like the ones developing those really advanced solar panels or the ones making wind turbines more efficient or coming up with new ways to store energy with batteries. And then there's this whole movement towards sustainable agriculture companies finding new ways to grow food but with less of an impact on the environment.
It's kind of amazing to think that we can invest in making the planet healthier and also earn a return on that investment.
Yeah, it's a total win-win.
It really is okay. But let's not forget about the other megatrend we were talking about, technology and healthcare.
Oh, yeah. That one's huge.
It seems like there's just so much potential there.
It's an area that's ripe for disruption and innovation.
Yeah.
We're already seeing amazing things happening with telemedicine.
Yeah.
Artificial intelligence in diagnostic personalized medicine.
Yeah, it's wild to think about how technology is changing healthcare. Imagine being able to see a specialist without leaving your house or having AI help catch diseases earlier and more accurately, and even treatments that are designed just for you based on your genes.
It's really incredible.
It feels like a healthcare revolution is about to happen.
It does. And for investors, this is a huge opportunity to be a part of that.
Yeah.
Look for companies that are pushing the boundaries in medical devices, coming up with those groundbreaking new drug therapies.
Right.
Or using data and AI to make healthcare better.
Okay, so if you had to boil it all down, what would you say is the key to finding these forever stocks of the future?
I think it's about finding those companies that aren't just trying to fix the problems we have today, but are actually looking ahead and trying to shape the future. You know, they're the innovators. They're the disruptors, the ones who are always pushing the limits. They have a clear vision, strong leadership, and a really good understanding of what's going on in their industry.
And for our listeners, even if you're not quite ready to jump into investing, just remember this idea of being a forever learner that can apply to any part of your life.
Oh, absolutely.
The world is changing so fast, and the only way to keep up is to keep learning.
Yeah.
Never stop asking questions, never stop exploring, and never stop looking for new knowledge and new ways of seeing things.
It's so true. That's the beauty of always learning. It keeps us engaged and informed and able to adapt to a world that's always changing.
I couldn't have said it better myself. And that, my friends, is the deep dive.
That's a wrap.
We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of investing and that it inspired you to learn more.
I hope so.
Remember, knowledge is power, and the more you learn, the better equipped you'll be to navigate this crazy world we live in.
Couldn't agree more.
Until next time, happy diving.